In the late 1950s, the Italian movie industry hit a gold mine. By hiring the various athletes and strongmen emerging from the era's booming bodybuilding and fitness fads as actors and utilizing the natural beauty of the Mediterranean wilderness as backdrops, they could stage loose adaptations of iconic historical, biblical, and mythological tales with the added draw of attractive, scantily clad stars while spending very little money. And when 1958's ultra-low-budget Hercules, starring American bodybuilder Steve Reeves, became an unexpected hit in the United States, it touched off a massive international craze for such material, spawning an entire genre of so-called swords and sandals epics. The films are pretty terrible for the most part, and fans of Mystery Science Theater are more than familiar with just how bad it could get. But it's also not hard to see why it was so popular. Consisting almost entirely of beefy, barely clothed muscle men, Hercules and its progeny were essentially porn for women. Oh, and for gay men too, to be sure, but the studio marketing guys were obviously more focused on the women. In particular, they were believed to be hugely popular with stay-at-home mothers of young boys. Junior got a theoretically exciting movie about swords and monsters and heroes, while Mom got ideas. Filthy ideas. And now you know what Dr. Frankenfurter was talking about when he said,
"We could take in an old Steve Reeves movie."
The genre fell out of favor midway into the 60s as spaghetti westerns and James Bond knockoffs became the Italian schlock cinema's new cash cows. But in the early 1980s, the confluence of Conan the Barbarian becoming a surprise mega-hit and the continued popularity of the sci-fi fantasy epics in the wake of Star Wars brought swords and sandals briefly back to life. And it was in this magic moment that the notorious Menahem Golem and Yoram Globus, yep, those guys, decided to bring the tradition of Italian Hercules movies back to life. And the result was a 1983 disaster that is so bad, yet bad in such a completely, uniquely, one-of-a-kind, what the hell were they thinking way, it's gonna take me 2 of these shows to introduce it to you. Kids, this is the stuff that
movies are weird
was made for. The first thing you need to know about this movie is that it's much more interested in aping the then-popular stuff like Conan, Masters of the Universe, and Star Wars than it is in recreating Greek mythology. To wit, we open in space. There are apparently only 3 Greek gods, and instead of Mount Olympus, they live on the moon.
They were of the supreme essence and became gods.
Yeah, this was that kind of fun period where European sci-fi had come to mimic the scale and techniques of the Star Wars movies, but were still using design sensibilities straight out of Flash Gordon. Anyway, Earth is apparently full of evil, so to give mankind a fighting chance, the gods brew up a physically perfect superhuman and zap its essence into Hercules, the infant son of the king of Thebes. Unfortunately, that very night, Thebes is overthrown and the king and queen are killed. The traitors are working for Sybil Danning as the sorceress Adriana, who's really there to steal the king's magic sword because... Oh yeah, one other thing about this movie. The what's going on details kinda slip out in reverse, so we don't really know what the hell this thing is even about or why anything is important until it's already happened or basically over. Baby Hercules survives Moses style, and after killing a pair of puppet snakes and experiencing whatever this is,
put that back in the river.
He's taken in by not Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru and grows up into Lou Ferrigno, the Incredible Hulk himself. I should probably mention that a significant portion of this movie's present-day fanbase is comprised of bodybuilding aficionados, and yeah, it can't be ignored, this is the only Hercules movie where you kinda have to buy the whole strongest man on Earth thing. I mean, the dude is huge, and he can throw a bear into space. The bear had been sent by Hera to kill Herc's adopted dad. Just like in the original myths, Hera is working against Hercules, even though in this version she has no logical reason to do so. So Hera calls in the favor of her earthly minion, King Minos. Believe it or not, this is our main bad guy, though of course they won't bother explaining why until the end of the damn movie. Minos, meanwhile, subcontracts his Kill Hercules job to... In Greek mythology, Daedalus is an elderly inventor. In this movie, Daedalus is a sexy Power Rangers villain. Good change. Her plan is to kill Hercules with robots. Oh yeah, in this version, all the Greek mythological monsters are robots. Best to just go with it.
And on hitting the Earth's atmosphere, it will grow. It will grow. Big, huge.
So Herc defeats the flying robot fish, I guess, but fails to save the life of his adopted mother. So he sets off on a quest to find himself that for some reason involves sword fighting, beating up random guys with a log, messing with some chariots, and diverting a river to clean out the world's filthiest stables. Because if you're only going to keep one thing from the original story, it should be the part about the hero cleaning up horse poop. These labors win Hercules the love of Princess Cassiopeia. Until...
Here.
Find out what happens and how much dumber this movie gets next time.
Where was I? Hercules.
When last we left our look back at one of the most ridiculous movies ever made, 1983's Hercules starring Lou Ferrigno, Hercules, the orphan son of a deposed king imbued with superhuman strength by the ancient Greek moon gods, had used his powers to throw a bear into space, fight a robot, wrestle some random guys, clean a stable, and woo Princess Cassiopeia. Unfortunately, he and Cassiopeia are abducted by Adriana, the sorceress who masterminded the murder of Herc's birth parents. Oh, she's also the daughter of our weirdly ineffectual main bad guy, King Minos.
We have to eliminate Hercules.
Yeah, you see what I mean about how this movie kind of forgets what order to reveal important information in? Hercules gets tossed into the world's shallowest ocean and washes up on a mysterious island, and this is the point where the movie becomes the live-action equivalent of watching somebody play Dragon Quest.
Ugh.
The island is inhabited by the good witch Circe, who needs some of Hercules' blood to restore her to youth.
Who are you?
Circe reveals that she has a magic amulet that can teleport them to Minos' kingdom, but only Herc can retrieve it. So, after battling Daedalus' next killer robot...
The last one didn't work so well, you know.
It spits cosmic rays of deadly fire.
they go down to the underworld, which for some reason involves crossing a rainbow bridge, and arrive on the cover of a progressive rock album so Hercules can undergo the trials of ice and fire and get the amulet.
Resist! Only you can do it!
The talisman.
Circe then reveals that she was lying and the amulet can only get them part of the way there.
This does not look like the island of Thera. This does not look like the place.
And to go the rest of the way, they'll need to go get a magic chariot from the King of Africa. Yes, the King of Africa, who will only give Herc the chariot if he does some mountain moving for him.
But how will you do it?
Just wait and see.
In case you're wondering, no, this seemingly really useful turn-me-into-a-giant power is never used again. The magic chariot, by the way, doesn't come with any magic horses to pull it, but Herc has a plan for that too.
I need a rope tied around this stone, sorceress.
I think that kind of speaks for itself, right? And yeah, that finally gets them to Minos' kingdom, which we now find out is supposed to have been Atlantis, by the way, and it's time for another brief robot battle. Which ends with Circe dead. You know, Hercules kind of sucks at the whole hero thing. He's had to protect exactly 3 people total throughout this whole movie, and they all died. Oh, and King Minos finally explains the plot.
The pure magic of perfect knowledge. Science is impeccable. It's the sword that holds the key to my power. Beyond this point, the Phoenix cannot rise.
You captured the Phoenix?
Just as the Phoenix is renewed in the destruction of its own ashes, so my strength is renewed every summer of the 7th equinox when I offer it a virgin bride. This night, Cassiopeia, you will become bride of the Phoenix.
Yep, it's now the end of the movie, and we now learn what the story was. So, Herc storms the castle, fights some guards, and Minos busts out his ultimate weapon, the Rainbow Fire Sword. Let's watch.
You're too reliant on your strength, my hero. You look muscle-bound, but you're pretty agile, aren't you?
This sword consecrated to Zeus fears nothing!
Are you really Cassiopeia? Or Ariana in a new form? Or Circe reborn?
I'm all of them and none of them. I'm the one who truly loves you.
And yeah, that's pretty much the movie. They actually did make a sequel to this, but it's not really trying as hard, so it's not nearly as fun. So, how did this happen? Well, it's actually kind of hard to say. It is known that the original director Bruno Mattei was replaced early on by Luigi Cozzi, aka Louis Coates, who was at the time better known for sci-fi movies like Star Crash. Sybil Danning, who played Adriana, has claimed that the original intent of the production was to make a true successor to the Italian Hercules movies of old, with the sex and violence, sex in particular, turned way the hell up to beat Conan at its own game, but that Ferrigno, whose name recognition they were counting on to sell the damn thing, was more interested in making a movie for kids. That makes a lot of sense, actually, though apparently Danning and Ferrigno were already on unfriendly terms before the film began, so maybe take that with a grain of salt. However it happened, Hercules is a bad movie I keep with me, just in case. You never know when a party is going to be winding down, or some folks in an enhanced state of mind will be visiting, and you might need something this outlandish to throw on in the background. Go on, give the whole thing a watch and you'll see what I mean. Just don't say I didn't warn you. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.